this man we're going to talk about was my grandma's brother, Cornelius Willoughby. He lived in Covington, and I went with my mother and her sister, Lizabelle, and her husband, Jim Martin, to spend the night. We went there, and they had lots of kids. That was fun to play with all the kids. But when nighttime come, we went in this little room, a little bedroom, and there was chickens under the bed. They was roosting under the bed, and they didn't have a bathroom. I needed to go to the bathroom in the night. My mother said, I'm not going outside. So she held me out this window and let me potty out the window. And then the next morning when we looked out to see where she was holding me over this big high hill, it was filled with pigs and hogs. Had she had dropped me, that would have been the last of your grandmother. So,
was it in the city?
Well, it was just kind of out. Yes, it was just on you know what Covington is like. It's a real hilly town. And that was so many years back. It wasn't heavily populated like it is today. But we went there and spent the night. I kind of enjoyed that. But then the next morning, my mother was scared, too. When we looked out, we were in a upstairs bedroom, and then the house was on this big steep hill. It was probably 25 or 30 foot down to the ground. So that was been a disaster.
Mhm. About what time or what year was that? How old were you?
Well, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, so you'll have to count back.
You were born in 1929.
29, and it'd be 30 to 35, probably 1936.
Okay. Do you remember any of the children there that you played with?
I remember some of their names, yeah. I remember a girl named Daisy, and then there was a boy named Howard, but they had lots of children, but I just can't remember their names. They were closer to Josephine and Dora because every summer they would come back to the farm and spend a week or so with our grandma, which would have been, my grandma would have been their aunt. Is that right?
Right, and your great-grandmother would be their grandmother.
Yeah, yeah. So they come to spend just a summer vacation with their aunt, their dad's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you remember anything about Cornelius, what he looked like or anything?
He was just a plain old man. I can't really, when you're a kid, anybody not very old, maybe 40 or so, you think of them as being old. But some of those Martins that you sent me, he was about such a type of man as that. So that's about all I can think about him.
You know anything about his wife, Dolly Reddick?
Dolly. She was kind of weird. They didn't have like a shade over a light, hanging from the ceiling like a glass shade. It was just a bare light bulb. And you'd have to reach up and unscrew the bulb to turn the light off. And she had on a dress, I remember, and she'd been cooking or something, and she said, "Oh, I'm wet. I can't turn that off." She's afraid she'd get electrocuted. So she held one of the kids up and let them unscrew that light. I thought that was weird. It was weird. So, but the kids, I remember, I don't know if it was Daisy or maybe one of the other children had a terrible scar right in the middle of their forehead, and they had been carrying some glass jars, like a canning jar, and she fell and broke that, and then fell on the glass, and it made a big gash, big scar in her forehead. So she carried that all of her life. I don't know if any of them children are still alive or not, because they would not be much older than I am.
Right, and there's some that are much younger.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, they had a lot. Yeah, they had a lot of children, so I'm not really sure. Josephine used to go down there and visit, but but we missed that. We didn't get into this while she was still living.
Right. Right. All right. Well, I guess that's all we know on Cornelius Willoughby.
Yeah.
I'll call you back here in just a second.
Who are we going to talk about then?
Who do you want to talk about? Well, let's just start with Granny's brothers and sisters.
Okay.
How about
Which
Elmer?
one?
Elmer.
Okay.